to have simple understandings of why it's not okay. It's like the matter is to like really ask yourself every time these conversations have come up. Ask yourself, like, how did you handle it? What type of defense mechanism did you do to sweep it under the rug or to quickly move that conversation along and just have fun? It's just like, we can all have fun together, but like my ride home is different on my bike.
It needs to be talked about. Like you were just telling the story about skating when you were younger with all your friends, and you guys got stopped by the cops, and they let everybody else skate home, and they kept you.
Yeah.
And I'd sort of wonder, like what that experience is like. And then you were also saying that afterwards, none of them, you thought none of them stopped and said to the cops, like, hey, we're all doing that. Why are you treating Lloyd like that? We're all here skating. And none of them talked to their parents about it, and nobody said anything. But then you were telling me about your friend Mino, who when you got arrested in the subway in New York City, he was there. He showed up and he had asked all the questions. They said that you were using this kind of subway card. Which subway card were you using? And he had researched, all the actual facts about how you were mistreated.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if you could sort of just expound on that a bit. By the way, this is Lloyd Vines here, and I'm Chris Conley. We've been friends now for a really long time. It's never even been an issue for us that I'm a white man, Lloyd's a black man. And you were just telling me about your friend Jessica growing up, your best friend Jessica, white, growing up, and it was never a thing. But you've told me a lot about your experiences as a black man in America, and I think it'd be really important for people to hear your perspective, especially right now in light of what's going on after George Floyd and everything that's happening all across America and all across the world.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I guess I can start, like, so there was a time where I'm in Virginia Beach, and I think I was in 8th grade, and a few of my friends, we were skating through this area. It's called La Promenade. It's a strip mall. And I'm pushing on the sidewalk, and then like next thing I know, my feet are dangling and I'm being choked out by a police officer. Now I was like about 13 years old, and I was with maybe 3 or 4 other friends, skateboarders that happened to be white. And the place where the cop was choking me at is a children's boutique where my dad's friend was the manager. So she calls my dad right away. We lived right around the corner, so my dad's there in like 3 minutes, comes skidding in the parking lot. The cop let me down, and then reached for his gun, and he just backs away to his car. He gets off and skids off. There's no like reason. He didn't stop and say, hey, your kid was doing this. There was nothing. He was afraid of my dad, and there's too many people around for him to do anything, so he just left. And even within that, it's me and 3 other white kids. We're all doing the same thing. We're all skating through the strip mall. Maybe we're not supposed to skate in there, but a simple like get off your boards and walk the rest of the way would have worked. But that conversation.
But you got choked.
But I got choked. That conversation never happened afterwards. And for my dad, how can I expect him to like explain that to me? I'm 13 years old. Like, you got to explain to me that for the rest of my life, this is going to continue to happen to me.
Yeah, and you've told me so many experiences like that. And, just a month ago, we were on the street walking in Chico, and, that there was a bum rooting through the trash on the corner, and he looked up and yelled a racial slur at you right there in broad daylight, and there's hundreds of people out, and I was right next to you, and I saw what it did, and I'd never seen anything like that up close. I grew up in a place where my parents put me in a school with every kind of person, and you didn't even know that people were different. It was just people. So I'm a bit sheltered, and it was shocking. It was shocking to see, and I just can't imagine. And I think it's important that people know what it's really like. This is what it does.
you know, it's something you just get used to, because if I respond, you know, how probably deep down inside I want to respond.
Wind up in
jail. If they call the police, the cop's gonna come question me before they even question this guy. So I have to like hold my head high and just know that I have the power to like not let that word harm me. But the big problem is if you understand that if that person could have his way with me, he would. You have to understand that it's not just about being called that. It's about knowing that while I'm sitting in that restaurant on that same block, there's somebody digging through the trash that has
that contempt,
the crazy amount of hate towards me,
malice,
and he doesn't even know me. And you just have to like walk that off with stride, and you still have to just live the human experience with my own demons, the things that I deal with in my personal life, the things that I deal with on a mental level. That still all exists in there. But then on top of that, you constantly have to question, like, why is it that I have to be treated this way because I look this way? I can't change that. You know, it's just as bad as like somebody saying like, yo, you got a big nose. You can't change your nose, but you know what? In this society, in this day and age, people let people affect them to the point that they do to go to plastic surgery, and they do change their appearance.
I got made fun of my whole life for being overweight and then having acne in school, and we've talked about this together. The reason that you connected to my music once we got to know each other is we both realized that we were both outcasts, and I was an outcast because I looked different. And I was treated like that, and I wrote about the truth of that experience, and it connected to you, a black kid in Virginia, and that's exactly what your point that you just made is exactly where that pain comes from, because we get treated for how we look and not for who we are.
Yeah, and that, like, you know, that's the reality I think that a lot of people face. And if your mind isn't strong enough to just like be like, all right, well, no matter what you do, regardless, if you choose to go hang out with these kids, or if you choose to be a part of this group or that group, if you're not choosing that based off like how you feel and the things that you love and the things that you feel are best for you, then you're just simply out here floating. So the choice to be an individual or be a part of the crowd, like, people have to make that choice. And to me, that's a bullshit choice, because I shouldn't have to feel like I only can hang out with black kids, and I shouldn't have to feel like I can only hang out with white kids. I should feel like I can hang out with whoever, and I can do whatever I want as long as I'm not out here hurting anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And you're one of those sweetest, most kindest, most wonderful human beings I've ever met in my life. And before I met you, I felt more alone in this world. And then I met you, and it was like meeting a brother. You know, just two people that are experiencing life in the same way. And, you know, we know the reality that it's just two human souls just in different vehicles.
Yeah, and it's the biggest shame of it all is like people don't see it. They don't see it as that way. It's just like you'd rather it be divided, just not to be wrong.
And we talk a lot about how like kids, you made a post this morning of a black kid and a white kid, and they're like just in love with each other and having fun, and you said these kids don't feel this way. And we've talked a lot about how prejudice and racism is taught, and it's forced upon the masses through propaganda and through the institutionalized system. And I don't know if you talk a little bit about like, when did you start to notice that was like part of the world?
Probably when I realized that I was like always the only black kid in that bunch. It wasn't like I didn't choose to be into the things I did based off of the majority of people that were doing it.
And you got a lot of clapback from family members. Like, you've told me your dad was like really worried.
Yeah.
Because you were into like punk rock and stuff. He was worried that you would.
Because he knew that it was going to be harder. He already has gone through the experience, and you know, if I'm just adding to that thing. Like even in skate culture, it's like a rebellious thing, like in nature. So therefore, skaters in general have this feud with police because they're like fighting with you, kicking you out of the spots, harassing you. So then you're a skateboarder, and then you're black, and then not even just that, but then other kids your age, they don't even understand it. So because you choose to be into things that are not necessarily your culture, you get picked on for that. You get or you call you a white boy because I speak the way I speak. It's on all fronts. There's no part of it that makes it okay for me to just be who I want to be, because I'm constantly fighting, and it puts pressure on your shoulders, and your muscles are always wrapped around your bones, and you're always in this defense mode because somebody's always got an opinion on what you want to do. And these things that we're doing, it makes us happy. It makes us feel good.
That's what you were making me think of. Like, I was thinking, I know you so well and how passionate you are about skateboarding, how much you love skateboarding. And I'm sitting here thinking, if you had either been forced not to skateboard, or you had chosen not to skateboard out of fear of the reaction, of how much of a part of you would have died.
Yeah.
You would have been like half the man that you are, and that's not okay either. So you were faced with this crossroads. It's this impossible crossroads where you chose to just be yourself. And you're and because of who you are, you're a real light. You're a real shining light in this world because you do what you love. And I can't even imagine, like my parents didn't want me to get into music, but like that was nothing like compared to the challenge that you faced of like you made a choice to be like consciously into what you were into. And I thinking about it, hearing your point of view, like that was like life or death almost.
I mean, definitely, because at this point now, I know that if I would have reacted to like the criticism or like the nasty words or comments and things like that I heard growing up, I know that I would like, if I let it get to me, then you stopped in your track, and then you got like regret, because you like had friends that would go to school and wear like clothes to fit in, and then they would go home and put on their skate clothes because they didn't feel like. I was just like, nah, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to school how I want to go to school, and this is how I. But
yeah, that's another thing, like your choice of how to present yourself with your clothing and your style, and that is different.
Yeah, because
within your community, right? Like
nobody's good. That's the thing. It's like nobody's form of self-expression should have to be held down. Like that's not how things move forward.
Like you were saying, if you're not out here hurting anybody, like you should be allowed to be exactly who you are. It's like a gift to the world to be your beautiful, unique self.
Yeah, and like that's like ultimately like what is to be promoted, because there's a lot of kids that stop doing things that they love because of the jokes and basically just the mean, ignorant people who have an issue with that. But if you always like look in hindsight now, I'm like, damn, I stayed true to myself, and this is why I am where I am now.
Yeah, well, your life unfolds in this incredible way.
Yeah,
and it's this magic reality that you made out of these choices. And I never really thought until I got to know you like how brave those choices were, and especially in light of this particular, in this context of your experience as a black man growing up in America.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, needless to say, it's hard. It's hard, like especially when you're like literally actively making the decisions to do the status quo, to go out and find other things to cultivate yourself with. Like you know, it's either like I can go try to fit in, but therefore I'm going to be stripping myself of my own individuality. But if I choose to be myself, then I'm going to have to deal with this negative feedback all the time. If I can find people, and even then finding people, you're like, oh, this is the community, this is the culture, we're all here together, and then you speed up now, and it just shows the strength that you need to have in your own mind to withstand and stand up for yourself. And now, right now, you see the people you grew up with, you see all of these things, they're like coming out and they're saying, and you're like, you're gonna let it, finally we've been getting along all this time, or so I thought we were getting along all
Right.
this time, but is that how you truthfully felt?
Yeah, you've been talking a lot about how, like, behind closed doors, you never know, like, what people are saying, and how your family was, like, concerned when you go and, like, spend the night at, like, a white friend's house. Like, is that okay? Is that safe? And then fast forward now, and you're starting to find out, like, some of those people really did actually secretly harbor hatred in their hearts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even know what to say, because I just can't imagine, you know. I just think it's like, it's time for people to really, really understand what everybody's experiences are, and the fact that it's unacceptable. This is like the end of the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if you're gonna be there when it's all good and we're all having a good time, and then you want to disappear when it's inconvenient or it's uncomfortable to talk about or things, it's like that's on you. But at the end of the day, like, if we're considered friends or brothers or fam or whatever you want to call it, your friends and your fam that are not looking like you are at huge risk right now, and we always have been. And if people want to choose to not see it, well, now you have no choice.
Right. And we have to listen to each other. You know, and I was asking you earlier, like, what do you think, what can I do more? And that's what led to us deciding, hey, let's film this right now, this conversation, you know, because everybody needs to be part of this.
Yeah, I think it's a demonstration of, like, what a lot of us have already been doing. Like, we've all been coexisting, you know, people that do have those open minds and people that do, like, see things with their heart. We've already been demonstrating this. If you're true to it, then you should know, like, you've already had the friends, you've already saw that you can coexist, live with, party with, do whatever you want with. And we know the people, you know, that have stood up and have said something and have been about the cause before all this light has been shed on it. Because honestly, this is like nothing new to me.
Right.
This is nothing new. This is the reality.
It's like the culmination too of years and years and years.
Absolutely. You feel the prejudice with it, being a black alternative kid. You feel the prejudice within your own black culture. You feel the prejudice in general with white culture. You feel it from all fronts. You know, it's such a surprise that people haven't even just ran and burrowed in a hole, because you know what? It's a unbearable weight, but it takes tremendous courage to just carry it. And I have to constantly understand and educate my own self on the matter all the time, because it doesn't make sense to me, because it doesn't make sense. There's no logical explanation on why we can treat other people different because they don't look the same way as us.
It's divide and conquer, and it's in the people's history of the United States. We've been talking about how it was made a law to keep people separated because there was more people that didn't own land, and they were starting to rise up and overthrow the landowners, and so then they made it so that they would keep everybody separated, you know, and they'd let the white indentured servants go when they were found and couple with the black slaves, and then they would lynch the black slaves. And it's in the law books of this country that it was made a law to stoke the flames, to fan the flames.
And it's like, if you can do that, if you can create societies, if you can create businesses, if you can create make things in progress in whatever field you're in, but you can't simply understand why it's wrong to kill another person because they look different, or to treat people. We don't treat your kids that way. You don't treat even your car. You know what I mean? Like, people treat their physical items better than they treat people. People will be more worried about a rodent getting ran over than somebody getting shot in the head, and that's like a big issue. It's just a big issue on all fronts. Like, when you exist in so many different social circles, all you're doing, like, as a person, is you're understanding so many different perspectives, and you're able to communicate with everyone. I do this.
Yeah.
I do this. I have all sorts of friends from all over.
Yeah, you're like a friend of life.
You know, and I never cared about color. You know, I never cared that I was the only one there. I didn't only start paying attention to it until ignorance really, really, really started to penetrate your little subcultures and your little bubbles, and so, until it finally weaseled its way in there. And now look, people you grow up with your whole life, and then you really see what their perspective truly is, and you're just like, you can look at your life and say, damn, have I just been putting myself in danger all this time? Like, because that mind has always been that person's mind.
And their family's mind, and on and on.
Exactly, but you can't live in fear. You can't live in fear.
That courage is heroic.
You know, you do what you gotta do to feel okay. If you find out later that it might not have been the safest thing, well, you made it out alive. And like, that's the whole thing with like progression and pushing things forward and moving boundaries. I love seeing the amount of black kids, people of color, that are skateboarding now, because I come from when it was me, my friend Sean, my friend Justin, Julian. You know, there was like maybe 10 of us in 7 cities in the early 2000s, late 90s, and now it's all over. You know, we were at the forefront of that push, and it wasn't even easy to do it back then. You know, but still, with all of that, I still feel the same way, where I'm like, I shouldn't have to choose or act different towards my white friends or my Asian friends or my Spanish. I shouldn't have to start being different because society still can't get along. And that's what's happening now. The influence is not, but so great. It's not great, the influence right now, because people are like afraid to even like speak right now.
Yeah. And
the people that are speaking are saying wild ass shit.
The hatred, yeah. I forget who said it, is like, evil is when good people don't speak up.
Yeah, you know, and it's like, it's honestly, I can see why it is a little bit hard to speak up, because I don't agree. I don't live my way. My way of life is not that way. I'm not judging what I'm gonna do based off of like who lives in that neighborhood or who occupies these spaces, because I'm over here like, nope, wherever I go, like, I'm gonna just be myself and like it'll be cool. But you know,
yeah, like, how do you get through to someone who's entrenched in the bigotry and prejudice and racism? Like, how do you break we've been talking recently about how it's hanging out, you know, it's being with people that are different than you, and you see, oh wow, like we're all the same.
Yeah, it's like the common ground. Like, I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of friends this past week, and you know, the thing is like, we're like, what do we do? Like, how do we do, like, what do we say? And it's like, we're doing it right now while we're on the phone, because we're gonna hang up this phone with even more of a perspective, and hopefully we both can pass on what we just taught each other about our actual friendship. It's already like within us to know better.
Right.
You know, don't let outside forces start to steer like your morals and your own like dignity towards the matter at hand. Like, and that's what's happening. People are like, oh shit, like, well, I'm gonna get defensive because you're saying, and it's just like, wrong like is wrong. In basketball, the other team loses, but people are still like, well, you tried your best. In this situation, that doesn't exist on the losing side.
No,
it's just
plain wrong.
Plain wrong.
It's plain wrong.
There's no pat on the back for it. So like, it's okay. It's okay to know that, like, hey, if you're ignorant and you're racist out there, like, you gotta unlearn it. You gotta accept the fact that you were taught wrong. The same way anybody who's out there doing anything bad, figure out where you learned it from, and if you don't like it, change it. But if you don't want to change, that's on you. But just understand, there's more of us that are willing to help make that change than they are you. We're sitting here getting along just fine. And this has been my entire life, sitting around, getting along with people that I feel versus see. And that's your big issues, you know. And it's like, for all my friends that I grew up being the only black kid in the middle of all that, and for every time you like did or did not speak up, like you can't ask why this is happening right now, because it's happened right in front of your face with me. You know, I let society change me in a lot of ways that I don't like in these past 10 years. And I'm making the conscious effort to unlearn talking to myself bad and not feeling like I have any worth out here. And then you put what's going on in the streets. Imagine, outside of me feeling the feelings that we all feel, now I have to be watching my back. I don't want to go walk down the street right now because of fear of what can happen to me. And a lot of the times people just sit and watch. And this is closer to home now. And there's no hiding now, and there's no hiding the fact now. So for all the phone calls and all the people that I'm talking to, you can't understand why it's not right that you can enter and I can't. If you try to explain this to me, there's no answer for it. It's not 1 + 1. There's no equation that makes any of what's going on and what's been going on right.
It's just wrong. It's
just plain wrong. And this is the conversation that you need to have. If you don't understand people that don't look like you, then you need to try. And you need to speak to people, and you need to let people talk. And you need to hear what the people that are going through this have to say. Because you enjoy every single thing that we all make. Now imagine you're Michael Jordan, or your favorite athlete, your favorite rapper, actor, screenwriter, whatever. Imagine all of them were just gone one day. Well, that's what's happening day by day by day. Your favorite people. We inspire a lot of people because, you know, a lot of the time you got a black struggle. It comes from the dirt and it inspires big things to happen. We shouldn't have to be in the dirt by ourselves anymore. If you want to be a part of helping people change and see, use the same influence you have to maybe have your friend copying the way you dress, have him copy your mindset. Get that down. Call me if you don't understand. Reach out, because I guarantee the majority of us, black, white, whatever, if we got the good perspective, we're willing to share it. Because this right now is affecting all of us. All of us. I shouldn't have to feel like I gotta choose sides. I am on no side. Black people have treated me like shit growing up, and white people have treated me like shit growing up, and I'm not the only one who feels this way. But I chose not to still think that way. It doesn't matter. Everything else that's not right is just an excuse. You, me, all of us, we got the power to break the chain, to be able to make and say and do whatever we want, as long as it's not hurting anybody. But don't try to justify it because you feel like it's directly aimed personally at you, because that's just not the case. We just all need to be helping each other right now. That's the big case. That's the big thing in hand. Like, you can't keep dividing it up and saying like, oh, well, I'm not like that. I never, it's like, neither am I. But the problem is there's not enough of us who are thinking clearly, who have clarity in their own vision. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me that Chris could have been any other person and I still would have resonated with the word, with the song. It doesn't matter. If you're making choices off of what you do based off of how people look, then yeah, ain't shit changed, and nothing's gonna change, and we're just gonna stay in the same shithole. Like, that's just what it's gonna be. But right now, if this all settles down and it's the same, then all this is for nothing.
It can't be. It can't go back.
Absolutely.
It can't.
So it's just like time, I think, for everybody to just like wake up to it. If you're my friend, then just know, like, it's not so far from me being the next thing that you see tomorrow on your feed, because it's people that look like me.
I love you, dude.
Love you too. Yeah, man.
Let's send this out there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching. Please tell your friends. Tune in again. We're gonna be doing more of these.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.